Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Rise and Grind with 72 the Architect, aka Jason B. And it is Sunday, May 29th, 2022. And I have a live guest in studio with me, a good friend of mine from London, England. Her name's Mahala. And today we're going to talk about priorities. How do we really put priorities in a good spectrum? And it's going to be an amazing topic today. So, good morning to you, or actually, good evening or afternoon, whichever you prefer. Mahala,
Good
how are you
evening.
doing?
I'm good, thank you. How are you, Jason?
I'm great. I'm great. Now, Mahala and I have been talking about a little bit about Stoic topics, and we've been sharing the book, The Daily Stoic. And today I was writing a script about priorities, and then we were just kind of talking about how Stoicism how actually helps us with a little bit of priorities. So we're going to talk about that today, and it's going to be a great, great episode. So without any further ado, I'll just read you exactly what today's Daily Stoic was, and it's titled Work is Therapy. And from the great Stoic philosopher Seneca in Moral Letters 31.5, he says, Work nourishes noble minds. Now, Ryan goes on to explain, he says, the feelings that you get when you go to the gym and you haven't been there in a few days, a bit dodgy, irritable, claustrophobic, uncertain. Others get a similar feeling when they've been on vacation for too long or right after they first retire. The mind and the body are there, but be used are there to be used, and they begin to turn themselves when not put into some productive end. It's sad to think that the kind of frustration is an everyday reality for a lot of people. They leave so much of their potential unfulfilled because they have jobs where they don't really do much or because they have too much time on their hands. Worse is when we try to push these feelings away by buying things, going out, fighting, creating drama, indulging in the empty calories of existence instead of finding real nourishment. The solution is simple. Thankfully, always right at hand. Get get out there and work. So the question is what work nourishes the mind? And I think that's a very, very valuable question. But just to go over further a little bit more, just to think about priorities, when we look at our lives and reflect, we ask ourselves, did I do that right? As for these momentary evaluations that can turn into criticisms or critiques, we must consider why. Responsibility is always a reminder of our limitations. Quality of our joy leads us to make better moves, but discipline tends to hold us in a place of success or failure. What do priorities do for us? When I think of priorities, I think of what matters to me. And at the moment, my mental health, my physical health are and my work that I conduct for myself and my family are my priorities. Now, the key to a lot of this is attention is invaluable. What gets the best of your attention and what gets the worst. So we have to think about who, what, when, and where. Now, Mahala, when you think about your daily attention, first, thank you so much for even being a guest on my show. I
No,
definitely
th-
appreciate it. You there?
yeah, I'm here. Thank
Oh,
you for
okay.
having me.
Okay. When you think about what gets the best of your attention on a daily?
Hmm. What gets the best of my attention? I think exercising the mind, making sure that I'm mindful, making sure that I'm reading is the one thing that pops out in my mind right now. And I think books are so valuable and hold so much knowledge. And I think they're just
I know it's kind of putting you on the spot a little bit. It's
yeah.
okay. It's okay. I don't expect you to be able to have really, really. That's the thing is about, especially when we have our discussions, we're able to free flow. So right now, we have people listening, but it's really just a conversation between you and I. And so
Yeah.
when you think about what gets like now let's reverse the spectrum. What gets the worst of your attention? When you think about what gets the worst of your attention, what would be good examples of the worst?
Procrast-
Counterproductive as an example.
Procrastination is the first word that comes to mind.
Mm. And where do you procrastinate the most, if you don't mind? If you don't wanna say, it's cool with me.
Oh no, no, no! I'm happy to share because people can like relate. I think at the moment with my mental health and with what's been going on in the world as well, and with COVID and the last 2 years have been so difficult for all of us and has thrown us in a completely different routine in life. And I've come to find that in the last 2 years, my procrastination has got really worse. And it will be down to anything. It will be down to something as simple as maybe washing the dishes that are in the sink, to something as important as meeting a deadline for work.
Mhm.
And um, yeah, that's like a constant battle for me at the moment.
Right, and when we think about, the positive of good attention and the negative about bad attention, what brings you home and has you balanced and centered? Do you appreciate the both? Because sometimes I'm gonna be honest with you, my bad attention sometimes gives me a break from the hardcore stuff that I'm working so hard in what I'm trying to achieve. And then
Yeah.
there are times where it's like, okay, to bring the discipline back in whom I talk to, what I talk about,
Mhm.
what I'm putting my best of me in, that also brings in something very valuable. So it's like, okay, it's time to stop playing and time to get back to study or get time back to work. So
Mm.
when we think about priorities, do you think about priorities as a fulfillment in keeping you balanced?
I feel like you'd have to look at it in both sense. There's priorities of fulfillment and priorities to your spirit and your soul, and then there's priorities where it's not just about you. It's priorities that have another individual involved
Mhm.
and things that you need to get done so that others can get their work done, or so on and so forth, where people rely on you. So for instance, something as simple as, like, well, that's not really simple, but taking care of your family
Mhm.
is it's a priority. Not only, yes, because it's important to you, but also because these other people in that priority are relying on you.
Right. And so that's whom you serve, essentially
Mm,
what you serve and whom you serve, believe it or not, is a very, very big deal. And there's all kinds of formulas that many people have come up with that really it's like, okay, well, if you were to prioritize and here's the next big word, organized, right?
mm,
Being organized is the discipline that's going to set you in place, that's going to say, okay, I am not allowing myself to have a certain amount of distractions. I am, when I need to take a call with a client or I need to have a meeting with somebody that, you know, needs absolutely no distractions. You had your playtime, you had your, you can play your games like was it Candy Crush or Evolution or Wordle, whatever you want to choose.
yeah.
There's a time for that to end. And I feel that a lot of people are trying to find that. Let me find that baseline, that, hey, my ground in all this. So
Yeah.
I feel like one of the first things about being disciplined and getting to your priorities to work for you, like work or reading. I think reading is a very valuable thing. And I'm not talking about just listening to an audiobook. I'm talking about actually putting your eyes to page, not to
Page.
screen.
Yeah.
So just even a break for the topic for the second, how what does it do for you when you see your eyes to page? Is there any kind of certain feeling or imagination that goes into what you see on the page in your mind?
The first word that came to mind as you were asking that question was home.
Mm. That's very
I feel
invaluable.
like, and because of my journey through life, no matter what I was going through, books were my salvation. They were my what I go back to always. No matter whether I'm happy, whether I'm sad, I will stick my head into a book.
Right.
And it feels like home to me. And I have my pet peeve really is actually audiobooks and you know them book tablets,
Mhm.
because I really love reading a book. You know, you can smell the pages and, you know, physically turning the page and actually holding something in your hand is just, it's very valuable to me. And I respect the art of writing so much and reading someone else's words and their thoughts and their perspective on life. It's just, it's very important. And the knowledge and the growth that I gain from whether it even be fiction or non-fiction, whatever it may be, there's always knowledge to be gained, and it's as if you, the book is giving me a gift.
Right. And that is a kind of a euphoric feeling because, like, I think we take for granted the daily attentions from all around us, right? But when you're in a book mindset, and speaking for myself, whether it's fiction or nonfiction, my mind goes into like a state where I don't feel my hands, I don't feel anything else a part of my body, but the mind, it's like it
Mm,
warps into like if you were going to a movie theater and you're sitting in the theater and you're actually in the movie, right? You're in the
yeah,
story and you're kind of like the extra, you're the walking around, but you're curious and you're being nosy about what's going on and you're witnessing of what the meaning and being an observer and you're not gonna willing to say, "Hey, I'm not gonna interrupt you," but there's that voice, that inner voice that starts telling the story. And for me, reading specifically puts that into live action because for some reason, my eyes pace how the story goes, and
mm,
it just comes alive. And so then through my daily walks or my journey, whatever I do, um, it's like I can come across moments like, "Hey, I just witnessed this. I remember this quote. I remember this thing or this action." I can either use it as cautionary, like, "Oh, I'm definitely going for this because I read it, I imagined it, and now it's taking place in life." And,
yeah.
it's being that in that place. So circling back to priorities, have there been things that you've read that helped you align with your key priorities, your number ones?
Definitely. I'm trying to. I think there's a few quotes in the book Listen, Little Man,
Mhm.
where he's talking about, you know, the everyday man and what we're truly like. And do you know what? It's not coming to mind right now. I wish I had the
It's
book in front of
okay.
me.
Just
Uh,
anything, it doesn't matter what it is.
but in that book was a true eye opener because it was almost as if I was being told about myself. And I remember while I was reading it, I kind of felt this embarrassment almost while I was reading because I was like, oh my gosh, this is me. This is something I do. And it's something I don't want to do.
Mhm.
And I think that that in itself is just so valuable.
I think it's very valuable because, like, when you look at, like, what's coming through and it comes out, you really learn to pivot and make, I would have to say, enlightened decisions.
Yeah.
Like, I love fiction because I love fiction and nonfiction because it gets me to, like, okay, I can really watch how certain things can unfold, like manipulations, like, when we read classic novels, Pride and Prejudice, you read, Dickens, you read, who else? You read Shakespeare. A lot of people put down books because they're so activated in short attention span that goes in doses, and it
Mm.
it's like being a drug addict almost. Like, it's like, okay, I don't have time for all that. How many times have you said that, or anyone else has said that around you in the last week? When someone says, "I don't have time,"
Yeah.
it comes out often, in my opinion. And what ends up happening is like, it's not that you don't have time, you just don't have willingness for your attention to be on that thing. Let's call it for what
Yeah.
it is. And a lot of people have set aside actually reading to listening to audiobooks because it allows them, allegedly, keyword allegedly, to multitask.
Mm.
But does it really give them the imagination and creativity that really could benefit them? So now when you get back to priorities, how much would you say that imagination, or would you say that imagination is very key to your priorities?
I think it's imagination is priority for your priorities.
Right. So what you see, to do, to execute on, makes it happen.
Yeah.
And in your experience, would you say that people really understand their priorities, or they just know what they like?
Um, See, that's such a question that I can't answer
It's hard to imagine, huh?
it's there's so many people with so many different stories and life experiences that that question is just way too it's
Complex?
too vast. Yeah. And I think that some people haven't figured out
Mhm.
after going through a certain amount of experiences in life. Some people are on the journey and some people are yet to start that journey.
Alright.
And as someone who say just picked from the crowd, I can say about my own is that I have some priorities figured out and I'm still on the journey to figuring out what else my priorities are.
Right. And to me, priorities are very simple: food,
Mm,
shelter, and sleep, and work. If I'm not working on something, I'm not
mm,
happy. I'm just not. My body, my mind has to be applied to doing something, instead of, like, say, like, sitting in front of a television and watching all day. Like,
mm,
I've literally watched the seniors in my life, the mentors, my parents, my grandparents, and sit for mindless hours, mindless, trying to be fulfilled, entertained, or something. And what blows my mind is kind of like that one part in the Daily Stoic where he said, let me pull that one part out. He says, something about retirement. Oh, because they have too much time on their hands. And oh, yeah, here we go. It's irritable, claustrophobic. Others get a similar feeling when they've been on vacation for too long, or right after they first retire. So people's work is a big necessity of the value they get out of their lives. And when you
def-
don't have that job or that profession to go to anymore, what then? And I don't know if you've heard it from people, but I've definitely heard many times around me say, "Well, when I get to retirement, I'm gonna travel the world, I'm gonna do all this." But one
mm,
question that I've asked, and matter of fact, I was even talking to my mom about this, and I said, "Now that you got to retirement," she's been retired for 5 years. I said, "Let me carefully craft this. Are you doing exactly what you said you were gonna do before you retired?"
yeah.
And and you know what? She goes and works for a church. She gets not big money, but it's a little extra money. And
Mm,
she finds the value in the engagement with people going to a church the administration. She's really good at all that. And she told me, it's like, I'd rather go do some work with other people because I get bored at home. And I said, well, I thought you wanted to travel the world. I thought you wanted to do all these things. Well, I don't have much ability. I just realized that, my ability is limited to a degree.
Yeah.
And so that poses the question, are we postponing the fulfillment of our lives, the creativity, the thriving as a priority delayed on a certain point? And a lot of people will say yes. They will say yes because it's like, look, I've got to get my great career. I've got to make sure I have a stable out income, a happy home, all the things that go into your life,
Yeah.
like the shelter and all that. It's very, very important. So when we think about what, where, when, and who comes in our attention, we have to think about, are we letting it go so easy? Are we letting go of our grasp on reality and our priorities? Because, like, if it's not taking care of my family, not taking care of my business, and not taking care of me, it's an option. But yet
Yeah.
people will spend endless amount of time trying to make things fit where they don't fit.
Mm.
Would you agree that there are many that put things into their lives that don't fit and overwhelm them?
Um, Definitely. I mean, I think one of the things that comes to mind is the pressure about when we're looking at the lives of others as well. We think, oh, I'm going to do this, or I'm going to do that, without really taking into account what you can and cannot do and what is actually best for you as well.
Right. Now imagine this. You got a cat. What's your cat's name?
Mowgli,
Okay. How old is Mowgli?
he 3 months.
He's 3 months. And what is Mowgli's priorities?
Eat, sleep, play, and then repeat.
Right. And so if you were to apply that now, how many other animals have the same thing?
Many.
And if you thought about all of life on earth, how much do we share in common with that same premise?
Pretty much exactly the same as, is our foundation.
Right. But see, we like to add a little more to it. We like to add, like I said, did I do it the right way? Am I
Mm,
comparing to other people? Am I looking at life with a clear eyes? Or do I have a bunch of crap in my eyes? Do I have too many distractions, too many other exterior influences? Am I taking part in activities that are counterproductive, taking away from my priorities? And I can admit, yes, I have. There
yeah,
are so many times I've gotten in, like right now, we're live on Clubhouse and we're also live on a Wisdom app, which is podcasting, and then restream for YouTube. And one thing I can definitely tell you, I've gotten myself into idle conversations that I probably necessarily didn't do anything for or belonged in. And
yeah,
when we think about this time, and I think my number one excuse, and this is, I will admit this, an excuse, when I'm driving for my work, it's to fill that empty drive time. And sometimes I drive 2, 3 hours.
yeah,
Now, there are people in offices or work at home that do the same thing so that they don't get bored. And
yeah.
does that ever happen to you?
Oh gosh, yes. When I'm, I don't know, I guess maybe waiting for the laundry to be done because I work
Mhm,
from home. So
mhm,
yeah, when I'm waiting for something to be done, and I'm guilty of it too, I'll come on Clubhouse and sit in conversations that have no benefit for either party
mhm.
and is just so mundane and doesn't really do anything for me or for anyone else and isn't positive or productive in any way.
And
And
that's
literally
and that's
walk out
amazing.
you come away from that conversation completely the same person because nothing was beneficial from it.
So do you think it's kinda like a little bit of a like a pep up or maybe a let down? I feel like so pepped up. I had a great conversation, like I'll talk to you and many others that I know
Yeah,
throughout the social streaming or social audio, whatever experience. Sometimes I find when I talk to certain people that the addition of the day is like, you know what, like for example, you were just telling me about, you and your boyfriend and your future plans to go do a certain thing, right? Without saying to
yeah,
everyone what it is. But hearing your excitement, it's like, oh, that's cool. You're doing something that you want to do,
yeah.
with somebody. And that adds to fulfillment. Now, is fulfillment that here's the next question. Is fulfillment a priority in your life?
Mm, not as much as it should be.
Right.
If I'm completely honest with myself and with you, not as much as it should be.
Oh, so now you're lying to me, huh? Now you got to be completely honest. Damn, you're screwed. But anyhow, but the reality is that if we think about, a lot of us say these words, I should, could, would. And when I hear people say it excessively, I'm like, "Hey, can I borrow you for a second, your mindset just for less than 5 minutes? I want you to think about this. When you say those words, do you realize the delay you're creating for yourself and for the best of you?" And when I've talked to people about it, they're just like, "Well, what the you're right." And then they kind of feel down about it. I'm like, "No, no, no, don't feel down. Just take it as an activating momentary reminder that you could be doing things that really could help you shine." And how many of us want wealth? We want pleasure. We want to be able to choose as we want without interruption or delay.
Yeah,
And unfortunately, the hard work predicates the success and then the strategy. And so with priorities, when you think about priorities, are you applying the best amount of strategy to your life? You know, number 1, reading, I think is, number 1. I think that's like a way for me to meditate and get away from all the emails, the text messages, the phone calls, the monotonous activity that want my attention. There's so many bleeps, notifications that will go through your phone, or even
yeah,
you're walking outside. How many, like, I don't know how it is in London, but when you're walking down a street in a metropolis and you're going in a shopping district, how many signs have, get buy this and get one free, or some kind of neon sign flashing, and it draws
mhm,
your attention in certain colors.
yeah.
But you've got to go to the market to buy food. But it won't hurt if I just stop over here. I want to see this. I want to see this clothing, or, oh, Jordan Peterson just put out this book, or I've oh my God, I really want that bag. And you're like, okay. And then so when you get to the store, you're like, rush, I gotta hurry up because for it's like, let's say, for example, for you, your man, he's coming over. I've got to have dinner ready. And I'm like, all right, did stopping off really do you justice?
Oh gosh, yeah. No,
No, it didn't.
no, it doesn't.
you know or what about the simple things, cleaning your room, making your bed. Like, to me, making my bed on a daily reminds me that I'm going to come back to comfort, not
Yeah,
stress. And if we're looking at our mental health as a priority, there are so many things that are telling us, and things that people are doing there that are so chaotic and bad. Having a place where you can be welcome, like, I'm sure for when you come home, Mowgli's it. Mowgli and your couch or your bed or whatever, I'm
yeah,
sure it's like, "Okay, I can play with my cat,"
yeah.
you know? And I'm sure he drives you up the walls, like, "Oh, why did you do that? Why did you make a
Oh
mess on
gosh,
my floor?"
plenty.
Right.
But
So, when we look at making our priorities, organization is great, But if you don't have the discipline and understanding of the quality of your priority and your responsibility of it all, you know, you're gonna waste a lot of time, I feel, in my opinion.
No,
Would
I
you
agree.
oh, you do
Yeah,
agree. And, as I'm bringing this small talk to it, see, time has gone by, like I said earlier, hey, it's gonna fly by.
it really did.
And so we're at the 30-minute marker. And for those of you, actually, I'll add a little bit more time. For those who are listening to me on Wisdom and you want to add a comment or two, or you add your 2 cents and provide some context of what you heard between what me and Mahala was, you're more than welcome. If you're following me on YouTube, you can type in a comment and let us know, and I'll read it out. But if not, we're going to bring to a close real shortly here. But it's an opportunity for anyone to come up and offer their 2 cents and what they think about priorities. If not, we're going to bring to a close. But so my final thoughts on priority: make sure that
Mhm.
you understand the quality of your priority to work with your responsibility and use the best possible discipline so that you can find enjoyment of your day and your evening and everything that you do.
I
Mahala,
can.
did you have anything that you'd like to add as a kind of like a closing and final thought?
Um, I think when it comes to even the subject, is my final thought is don't be too hard on yourself,
Right.
because I feel like if I was just a listener on this podcast, and in my mental state right now, where I am in my life, if I was listening to this, I may feel a little bit overwhelmed, like, oh gosh, I really need to focus on my priorities and focus on the quality and I would personally, with the way my habits and my behavior and my traits are, I would feel like I need to get this done overnight.
So here's additions. Okay, so let's not leave so quickly. So for just for that perspective, let's answer some of that. What if I told you if you took it on in simple ways? Number one, get up and enjoy your breathing in the morning. Number
Yeah.
two, stretch. Feel Be grateful that you have a bed and a roof over your head. 3, what do you look forward to in the day? Make sure that you have something to look forward to.
Mm.
Number 4, how can I put simple organization to my daily tasks as I look at my priorities? Like, okay, making my bed, making sure that I'm well mannered, I'm taken care of, the way that I present myself. Look yourself in the mirror. Don't judge yourself. Just like, hey, smile. Today's going to be a great day. Talk to yourself. Give yourself some mantras like, hey, I'm looking forward to conducting this kind of work,
I think
and go.
positive affirmations as well, to say them to yourself.
Right.
It helped me before, when I used to either read or hear about it, and I used to cringe a little. I used to be like, really look in the mirror and say this stuff to myself, but I didn't realize how incredible and how valuable it is until I actually started to practice it.
Hmm.
And because no one's going to sit there and tell you you're doing a great job.
Yeah, you're going to have to.
Ex- Exactly. And I think I think positive affirmations should be a priority, and making sure that you're taking care of yourself. I think mental health should be a priority for everyone.
Right. Your attitude and gratitude before the day really gets going.
Exactly.
Like me, I get up early, 4:35 on purpose, and what I can say that what that does is allows me time before anyone else needs my time
Yeah.
or needs my availability, really, or my attention. I'm going to put it to a little exercise, a little stretching, a little meditation, reading, maybe a shower, maybe a cup of the mud water that I drink instead of coffee. Those
Mm.
carefully crafted actions lead into your priorities because then you can sort out, like, If someone's coming to you, "Oh, I'm in crisis. My boss is gonna get mad at me," and you're like, "I don't I understand, but is that all?" Or, "Oh, I got in fight with my significant other." "Okay, can I talk about it with you later?" Like, sometimes crafting that experience can make, your priorities be important, and also a level of boundary and respect for yourself.
Definitely.
So when we're building priorities, it's really your respect of yourself and those that you love and around you.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I'm glad I stuck around and add that. And thank you for bringing up that point. Is like it can seem overwhelming, but take it in like you're breathing. If you've forgotten how to breathe, no matter what stressful moments come in your attention, just breathing, bring yourself to patience is a
Yeah.
lot more helpful than just like rushing off. I've got to put out 5 sentences out to this vendor. Or I got to put out this to my boss. If they don't find out, the world is going to explode. Oh, we are hitting for critical mass. Kind of like okay, dun, 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 like a preview to a movie, like the Earth
Literally,
is going to end in 2022.
that's how it can feel if you don't bring yourself back to earth and take a deep breath and just be, process every second.
Right? Because appreciating your presence is more important than appreciating your future.
Oh
Right?
gosh, yeah. Yes, yes, and not enough people practice that.
Right. Right. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I think that is all for us. Thank you, Mahala, for being my guest here on Rise and Grind
Thank you for
Priorities. And I might have a part two, and I'd love for you to be a guest in the future. So,
having me. I'd
you
love to
know,
come back much.
absolutely. Well, ladies and gentlemen, if you haven't given me a follow, make sure that you subscribe and like. Look over into YouTube, and you can find me 72 the Architect, and usually my show's Rise and Grind. We'll see you all next time on Rise and Grind. You all have a great day. Let's see.